Ah, wrestling storylines. They can come from anywhere. A fight over a Japanese shampoo commercial, a lost chihuahua, who's the better ballroom dancer, but every now and then they'll use a real-life death to move a story along, which is dark. Dark. I'm Senior Siete here for 7 Wrestling, and let's take a look at 7 times wrestling used a real death to promote a show. Now, before we get into this, we appreciate your support, so if you enjoyed this video, please hit the like button, subscribe to the channel, and double underhook DDT the notification bell. Number 1. Eddie Guerrero. Latino Heat Eddie Guerrero is one of the most beloved performers in WWE history. The charismatic superstar who was known for lying, cheating, and stealing had overcome his personal demons to become a top actor in the industry and eventually the WWE champion. And there wasn't a person in the wrestling community who wasn't shattered when he was found dead in his hotel room on November 13th, 2005. Months later, the WWE would use this as a storyline, with Rey Mysterio dedicating the 2006 Royal Rumble to Eddie and going on to win the whole thing from the number 1 position. On the February 3rd, 2006 edition of SmackDown, Randy Orton would try to convince Rey to put his WrestleMania title match up for grabs in a match at No Way Out. And as Rey looked to the sky, seemingly wondering what Eddie would want him to do, Orton would say, "Eddie ain't in heaven. Eddie's down there, in hell." And Rey responded exactly as you think he would. Years later on the Kurt Angle Show, Orton would describe this interaction as one of the most uncomfortable of his career, and even though Eddie's widow Vicky had said that's probably exactly what Eddie would have wanted, it still didn't sit right with him. Yeah man, none of us were really crazy about it. Number 2. The Big Show's dad. If you weren't around for the Attitude Era, I'd recommend you firmly grab a hold of your hat for this one. In WWE storylines, the Big Show was devastated that his father had recently passed away from cancer, although his father had actually died years earlier. The Big Boss Man would take this opportunity to get under the Big Show's skin by doing such horrific things as reading a condolence card that featured the line, "If I could have a son as stupid as you, I'd have wished for cancer so I would die too. So be brave and be strong, get your life back on track, because the old bastard's dead and he ain't never coming back." Poetry. Then, the boss man dug up some dirt on the Big Show to find out that he was actually an illegitimate child and tricked his mother into admitting it on national television. Oh, is that why the Big Show wore this shirt? And finally, the coup de grace, not that coup de grace, the coup de grace was when the Big Boss Man showed up at the Big Show's father's funeral, where weirdly, the Big Show was dressed up as an extra from The Matrix. Anyhow, the Boss Man showed up in the friggin' Bluesmobile from the Blues Brothers movie to flirt with the Big Show's mother. He then tied a chain around the Big Show's father's coffin and started to tow it away. So, the Big Show did what any rational human being would do and dove on the coffin. He would proceed to body surf on it for a good 50 yards before finally falling off. What did the Big Boss Man do with the Corpse Papa show? We don't know. Honestly, we don't want to know. But we do know that this was all building to a title match at 1999's Armageddon pay-per-view, where the Big Show would proceed to squish the Big Boss Man in just 3 minutes. So, totally worth it. Number 3. Paul Bearer. Here's a quick aside. The character Paul Bearer had been The Undertaker's manager for years before I realized that his name was a pun, so maybe not my proudest moment. Anyhow, William Moody, aka the actual mortician who would land his dream job of playing a wrestling mortician named Paul Bearer, would pass away from a heart attack on March 5th, 2013 at the age of 58. The March 11th, 2013 episode of Monday Night Raw was dedicated to Moody, with his longtime protege and in-story father to his half-brother. Don't make me do the math. Let's just say it's The Undertaker. We're talking about The Undertaker. The Undertaker would pay tribute to his fallen buddy, but not before he was rudely interrupted by his WrestleMania opponent, Charles Montgomery Punk. Punk would harass both The Undertaker and Kane over the following weeks, stealing Paul Bearer's trademark urn, dumping the contents on The Undertaker, and so on. The highlight of all this, or perhaps the low light, being Paul Heyman doing a spot-on impersonation of the deceased Paul Bearer. But it all worked out in the end, with The Undertaker beating CM Punk in a spectacular match at WrestleMania 29, and finally getting to pay tribute to his deceased buddy. Oh yes. Or maybe, oh yes. Number 4, Reed Flair. Reed Flair was the youngest son of the Nature Boy Ric Flair and had been working his way up the pro wrestling ranks, having had matches on the independent scene as well as All Japan Pro Wrestling. The troubled youngster desperately wanted to sign a WWE developmental contract, but he failed 2 drug tests. His problems with drugs would ultimately cost him his life, as on March 29, 2013, Flair was found dead in a Charlotte, North Carolina hotel room. His older sister Charlotte would use Reed's passion for the sport as her inspiration to excel in her own sports entertainment career. Charlotte's size, athletic ability, and presence would serve her well as she would quickly rise up the ranks of NXT and join the main roster in the fall of 2015. She would be paired with Paige and Becky Lynch in a team known as the Submission Sorority. And that name would quickly be changed because apparently there was an adult website that had the same moniker. Probably not shocking. The trio would eventually split up when Paige challenged then-champion Charlotte for the Pretty Butterfly title at Survivor Series 2015. During the contract signing for this match, Charlotte would get visibly upset as she would discuss how both women came from wrestling families and had made significant sacrifices for them to succeed. The then-champion would break down as she discussed how Paige had been there for her when Reed passed away. Things would eventually get heated between the duo, as things often do in contract signings, but Paige pushed things over the edge when she said, "Your little baby brother, he didn't have much fight in him, did he?" And much like Rey Mysterio, Charlotte responded exactly as you think she would. Charlotte Flair would later make it seem like she was okay with the segment, but her mother? She definitely was not. Number 5, Owen Hart. Everybody loved Owen Hart. I can attest that no less than 3 of my friends have named their children Owen in honor of the King of Hearts, and deep down, most fans believe that the stunt that went awry that cost him his life was truly an accident. The parties that were responsible for what went wrong that evening have faced the rule of law. But Roddy Piper seems to think that then WWE writer and current fan of the word bro, Vince Russo, never got what was coming to him. TNA offered Roddy Piper 10 minutes of unscripted mic time for a shoot interview during a 2002 pay-per-view. And Roddy immediately set the tone for this segment by calling Vince Russo the Osama bin Laden of professional wrestling. Yikes. And then, against all odds, it would get even more awkward as Piper would say, "Hey Russo, did you write in my cousin Owen's death?" Oh, yikes. And if you've never heard a professional wrestling audience be absolutely silent, well, this is a good example. Russo would make his way to the ring, with Piper flat out asking him, "Did you kill Owen Hart?" What's weird about this whole segment is it's supposedly unscripted. Russo wasn't scheduled to come out, but he felt like he needed to be there to bring it to some kind of conclusion. And it never did. Piper wouldn't even let Russo talk, and unlike the other entries in this episode, this didn't lead to anything. No payoff whatsoever, unless you consider making Russo look like an ass a payoff, which, I totally get. Number 6, David Von Erich. David Von Erich was arguably the Von Erich brother with the most star potential. In fact, it's believed that the National Wrestling Alliance was preparing him for a run with the World Heavyweight title. Tragically, David would pass away during a tour of Japan at the age of only 25 years old. A few months later, his father Fritz Von Erich would honor his son's passing by promoting the David Von Erich Parade of Champions Super Show. And in the main event, David's brother Kerry would win the NWA World Heavyweight Championship from then title holder Ric Flair. While David's name wasn't used on a storyline angle to build up to the feud, the show featured a tribute song to David entitled "Heaven Needed a Champion," and his brother Kerry Von Erich would wear ring gear that paid tribute to his late brother. And to expound on some things that weren't shown in the 2023 Von Erich biopic The Iron Claw, Fritz Von Erich was accused of jacking up the prices for the show, and it's believed that he was even selling fake autograph photos of his deceased son at the event. You just can't uncarny a carny. Number 7, Jim Nightheart. Jim the Anvil Nightheart is best known for being one half of the most beloved tag teams of all time, the Hart Foundation. This versatile combo was one of the standout teams during the golden age of tag team wrestling. Nightheart would pass away August 13th, 2018 at the age of 63, leaving behind his wife and 3 children, including WWE superstar Natalya. To pay tribute to her father, Natalya would wear his classic shades to the ring for a match against Riot Squad member Sarah Logan a few months later on Monday Night Raw. During the match, the Riot Squad leader Ruby Riott would get a hold of Nightheart's glasses and snap them in half. We don't mean to make light of this, but her dad had to have had hundreds of pairs of those glasses. Nonetheless, Natty was not pleased. It was a whole thing. All this led to one of the weirdest matches of WWE history, and as you know, that's saying quite a lot. At the TLC pay-per-view, Natalya and Riot squared off in a tables match where Ruby was determined to put Natalya through a table that featured an image of her deceased father, which is dark. The only way to counter such treachery, apparently, was to put Ruby through a Ruby-branded table, which she totally did, and to celebrate, Natalya posed wearing her father's jacket and glasses. Oh, see, so he had a bunch of those glasses. No worries. Well, there's our list. Did wrestling go too far with any of these angles? Did I forget any? Let us know in the comments section below. Also, if you liked this content, like the video, subscribe to the channel, and super kick that notification bell. Until next time, I'm Senior Siete for Savin Wrestling saying bye-bye.